Nebraska currently has 2 chances left to qualify for that ever elusive bowl game. Injuries have been a problem all season. Gary, I have to give you credit. You foresaw the injuries that have been piling up, eventually, potentially getting in the way. And quietly, I think they have. Now the quarterback room is stricken with injury. And the Huskers may have no choice but to turn back to Old Faithful Jeff Sims. And Old Faithful may be the most sarcastic name possible, as he is an absolute turnover factory. Hit that like button for us and tell us in the comments, do you prefer an injured Heinrich Harburg, an injured Chubba Purdy, or Jeff Sims to start versus Wisconsin? We talked on the phone earlier, and you feel like the way you're reading Matt Rule's press conference, it's going to be Jeff Sims.
Yeah, I think from the coaching perspective, this is a best case scenario. And I don't mean coaching like X's and O's or play calling wise. I mean, as the head coach and offensive coordinator that gassed this dude up, convinced all of us we had a NFL quarterback that was still in college. All the things that you want to go back to the preseason talking about. Credit to them for pulling him, albeit maybe his injury may have been the initial cause, but not rushing to go back to him. They've tried to go to him a time or two, and he's shown that the issues are still there, which at this point, personality, teammate, good character guy, all that stuff aside, it comes down to you have to win one of these 2 games. And he's shown you that you can't do that, and there's no reason to think he can. There was an issue with Georgia Tech that everybody was worried about. Started off the season that way. First game jitters on the road. Okay, second game, more of the same thing. Like we've seen it play out, right? But to be fair to Jeff Sims, none of the other quarterbacks have shown much better ball security, at least. Harburg started off decent when he was primarily a runner and teams weren't prepared for him. Once defenses made that adjustment, he kind of had to become more of a passer. It's more the same, just a different number, essentially. And you can split hairs with all 3 of them, whether it's scenario, situation, going to Purdy with, next to no first team reps, very minimal, and not nearly as much in game time that the other 2 have had. But then there's the interception at the end of the game in the end zone, which 100% is his fault. But I'm still not letting Satterfield off the hook for that. And I'm also not letting Rule off the hook for allowing that play call to go through and then still going to bat for him. That's another probably video worth of that situation. But the team and the fans need to understand we do not have a quarterback on this roster that can get us to and win us a bowl game by being a true quarterback. We essentially have to figure out who is the best decision maker / runner that we can put out there and drastically dial down the passing game, drastically increase the little dump off safety valve routes, and just continue to pound the ball. The offensive line looked the best, in my opinion, that it's looked all year against Maryland. I just feel like the way this is setting up, it falls into their lap like, okay, the guy who came in and played better than Sims, most likely not going to go. He's here, high ankle sprains. They said when Jeff Sims had his high ankle sprain, he'd probably be good to go this week. We'll find out in practice. And it was like a month later before he was even healthy enough to go out there and take a couple snaps when Harburg got hurt the first time. You keep hearing about the lingering groin thing with Purdy, and I've heard people suggest that maybe it's a hernia, and that's what they mean by groin, and that's why it's taken so long to heal and why they're saying it's going to require surgery at the end of the year. I've had 2 of them. I get it. It is a thing that goes on. You can play with it, but it's not comfortable. It's not easy. But that being said, the dude's still practicing. He looked great running the ball, which would affect it more. And I don't understand why you have him pass. That shouldn't affect it as much. I think that this is a best case scenario out of a really bad situation for the coaching staff to, without too much criticism and ridicule, not that they do or should care, but just instead of having to dodge all the questions, it kind of fell in your lap that now you can put your guy back in. And if by the grace of God, he can have one game with less than 2 or 3 turnovers and get you a win and be the guy that gets you in a bowl game, it's going to make up for a lot, right? And at least get you into the next season without the questions. But the quarterback started earlier in the season. They've kind of been an ongoing thing. And now it's the heat's really starting to stack up on Satterfield, even if it's not from the head coach or the AD, but the questions that he's having to answer in these press conferences, all the noise that the fans and jackasses like us are bringing up. So, I mean, this could be a really good situation for them. And I think they're going to do everything they can to keep it going in their direction so they can go back to their guy and see if he can get it done. And then without saying, I told you so, kind of say, I told you so, even though it's an ass backwards way of it happening.
I just feel like it'll likely be Jeff Sims, but it possibly could be Heinrich Harburg. I don't even know at this point which one of them I want. It's like, do you want a punch to the groin or do you want a kick to the groin? I really don't want either, but also I feel a little bit guilty to be asking an athlete like Chuba to go out there and just play through injury. If he wants to do it, I'll accept that. I would pick him to start, but I do feel bad coming across as if he needs to just gut it out. That's his decision. If he wants to gut it out for the team, or if he's able to gut it out for the team, and only he truly knows. He seems like a tough kid that would try it, but I don't think Rule's going to let him. And I'm definitely nervous about reaching that 6 games.
For sure, but what about the idea of this high ankle sprain? So like we've talked before about the similarities between Sims and Harburg and how their biggest weapons are their legs, and the difference, in our opinion, and a lot of people agree, some people maybe don't, that the 0 to top speed is in Sims' favor, but top speed is Heinrich's favor. And you've got all these things. A high ankle sprain, I don't see any running ability being as good or better than Jeff Sims if you're nursing a high ankle sprain. So I do think he's better ball security wise running the ball than Sims is. They're both interception factories, is from what we've seen. But we've also seen since Sims has come back, he's not even that great at ball security when it comes to running the ball. So that worries me a little bit. I felt like he had a couple decent throws Saturday, early on when they first started throwing with him. But I mean, if the offensive staff, for the love of God, would please just abandon the pass except for when you absolutely have to, then I'm perfectly fine, whatever they do, but especially with Sims. I think a healthy Jeff Sims is going to be very good for the offense, as opposed to an injured or nursing an injury Heinrich Harburg being an okay addition to the offense.
I agree with that. I'm thinking this could and should be the week that you don't really rely on the quarterback to do much other than quick little passes, screen passes, and just love to see Emmett get 25 carries and Anthony Grant get 18. This is the week to rely on your running backs, not your quarterback.
Yeah, I just feel like you're kind of asking to have it both ways if that's the situation. I don't think you can go one-dimensional by all but throwing out the pass game, which, let's be honest, they're not going to do that. They're going to go out and still throw the ball as much as they do, right? I mean, in my opinion, if we've gotten to this point, and with what we saw Saturday, where you run the ball 90 yards down the field, and then when it's time to punch it in, you go, okay, let's go to the air and throw the game away, essentially. There isn't a sliver of me that thinks they're going to do that. That's not what we're talking about. We're not making predictions of what they're going to do. We're talking about what we see or what we think, right? So I can't sit here and say I want them to throw the ball very minimally, maybe 3rd and longs, maybe little dump offs on 2nd and 2 or whatever, and then turn around and say, and also don't use the quarterback to run. If you're going to run the ball 80% or more of the time, and the defense figures that out pretty early on, you're going to have every option, every RPO, every quarterback run play, fullback, receivers coming in the backfield, end arounds. You're going to have to open up that running playbook completely and maybe plug in a few more things this week, just so that when they know you're running, it still isn't easy for them to know exactly where or how you're going to run. I think the worst thing you can do is dial down to where you're strictly running the ball, and then also tip your hat that we're not running with our quarterback. Like, I think you're really asking a lot of that offensive line and essentially your 2 running backs at that stage, if that's what you do. As much as everybody's upset with the quarterback play and the turnovers from those guys, those 2 running the football, well, I should say Harburg running the football at least, is the reason we've won a handful of games this year. And we all agree that Sims is as good in some situations or some aspects better at running the football than Harburg. So to take that away from them because they pissed us off with, bad passes and maybe a couple fumbles here and there, I'm okay with a couple turnovers, man. You're not going to have a quarterback that goes all year without throwing a pick or 2. And you're not going to have a ball carrier, no matter what the position is, that doesn't get the ball ripped out or poked out or get careless once in a while trying to get extra yards and fumbles it. It's the insane amount each game, right? I don't know, man. There's obviously no quick fix answer, and we have to come to grips with the idea that you're going to have people that are like, it's got to be Harburg. It's got to be Sims. At this point, it's got to be Purdy. And everybody's wrong, right? Because we don't have the guy. We don't have the quarterback that is going to make everybody feel good and is going to complete drives and put games away and come from behind and do things. We just don't have that. Nobody has the ball security or the passing ability to make that happen. So it's make the best of what you have, which isn't that great, and just keep it moving. I'm just saying, from the way he talks and the way everything looks leading up, the way the first couple practices have panned out, I fully expect Jeff Sims with Purdy to be next up. And if injuries or crazy turnovers happen, then maybe they try to force Harburg out, but I just don't see it. I don't think you'll see Harburg. I think you'll go from Jeff Sims to Purdy if need be.
Tell us what you guys think in the comments about who should start versus Wisconsin. We'll see you guys for the live stream. Until then, go Big Red.